Welcome friends to the 2024 Ford Bronco Sport. I tested this vehicle when it first came out and I was a really big fan, and for this new model year I've noticed some interesting driving dynamic changes, so I'll be sure to cover them in the driving segment. But for right now, let's talk about what's new for the 2024 model year. Well, you have a new freewheeling edition, which gives you some cool graphics on the side. I mean, if you're into that, and it comes with some unique 17-inch wheels. So now you have two kind of special edition Bronco Sports that you can choose from. We have the freewheeling and also the Heritage Edition. The model that I'm checking out in this video is a Big Bend, and for this model year, the Big Bend is going to be your new base model. And this starts at around $31,000. With the Big Bend, you are able to get a new sort of blackout package, which gives you black accents and some black decals on the hood. Costs about $1,700. Personally, I wouldn't pay up for it. I would rather spend that money and upgrade to the convenience package on this Big Bend. Because yes, this model I'm checking out, this is exactly what I would go with, because this is one of the most brilliant products that Ford makes. It's well priced. It comes standard with all-wheel drive. The 1.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder is brilliant out on the road, and I'm going to discuss why. If you go with the top of the line Badlands, you do get the turbo 4-cylinder with a lot more power on paper. It's not really necessary because the turbo 3-cylinder is doing such a great job as is. So for around $31,000 to $33,000, you're getting a relatively well-equipped Big Bend, or you can even pay up $1,000 or $2,000 to get the Heritage or that freewheeling model if you want, and you're driving around in a cool family vehicle. This thing has some presence out on the road. It's a unique looking vehicle. Yes, I get it, the big Bronco is the one that has all of the swagger. However, I still appreciate how this car looks. I think this could be a good business vehicle, like you wrap it with your company's logos and things of that nature. And it can be a relatively inexpensive business car. Do some deliveries in it, whatever you need to do. And it doesn't feel like a lifeless, generic family SUV. This has some character, this has some soul to it. This is brilliant as long as you don't overpay for it. That's why the Badlands, with its off-road capabilities, for $40,000 or close to it, it's not really worth it. If you really care about off-roading, save up and get the big Bronco, right? This is incredible at $31,000 to $33,000. Now let's go ahead and let's transition into this driving segment. All right, this 1.5 liter turbo 3-cylinder. We have here 181 horsepower and 190 pounds-feet of torque. I think Car and Driver, they tested this Bronco Sport to do 0 to 60 in about 8.2 seconds, something along those lines. And the turbo 4-cylinder, I believe that did 0 to 60 in about 5.9 seconds. I get it, on paper, the turbo 4 seems significantly quicker, but the reason why I'm such a big fan of this turbo 3-cylinder with the 8-speed automatic transmission is because you're always in the power band. Like, if you just ease into the throttle, you're immediately accelerating effortlessly. It's great for passing around town. And when you're at a standstill and you peg it, there's no lag. There's no lag at all when you drive this SUV. So you always have this confidence behind the wheel that if you need to bust a maneuver, if you get on that throttle, you're not going to be stuck there waiting for a second or two for the boost to kick in or for the gearbox to shift down. No, everything happens immediately and you're always in the power band. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of this 1.5 3-cylinder. It's also relatively smooth. It doesn't make any nasty, rattly sounds. In fact, it sounds decent, and it's pretty smooth as well. Now, out on the highway, if you're already doing like 80 miles an hour and then you peg it, obviously at that point, this vehicle will lose its steam, just like with most other turbo vehicles or most other economy products, right? But if you're already doing 80 miles an hour or close to it, there's no real need for you in the United States to go faster than that. So for most families, I think they're going to be more than pleased with the power output of this Bronco Sport. Okay, enough of that. The main difference I noticed driving this 2024 Bronco Sport is it handles a lot better. I remember back in 21 when I drove that vehicle, it was the Outer Banks and it rode really soft, the 2021 model year. However, in the corners, you felt a lot more body roll, and the handling in general was a bit clumsy. Here for 2024, what I've noticed is they've really stiffened up this SUV. So it handles a lot better, but now it's a little bit more of a jarring ride quality over just about every pavement type. So you feel these small bumps being translated into the cabin a little bit more. It's not a big deal. I can absolutely tolerate it, and I did play around with the tire pressure. So when I initially got this test vehicle, it was a bit high, and Ford recommends around 33 PSI. It was at 35 before, so I aired it down to actually below 33. I actually aired it down to 31 PSI, and even with that, there's still these small bumps being translated into the cabin with me putting less air than what the factory recommends. So yeah, this is simply just a stiffer SUV now, but the benefit to that is the handling has improved dramatically. See, like, check this out. You chuck this thing in. That body roll I used to complain about is non-existent. You're reaching the speed limit and beyond very quickly. And yeah, this is a much more sure-footed and secure driving feel now. Even out on the highway, doing the higher speeds, this new Bronco Sport feels a lot more stable. Once again, one more demonstration of the handling. Yeah, it handles a lot better. Big improvement. So yeah, the handling dynamics combined with the effortless power and the fact that you're always in the power band, it just provides you with a confidence-inspiring driving experience. But you are sacrificing the ride to get this great dynamics. Brakes feel good, comes to a stop nicely, and the brakes have a good firm feel to it. Steering isn't super light or super heavy, it's just perfectly weighted. From a refinement standpoint, we don't have double pane glass or anything, but there's not much wind noise with this SUV, even out on the highway. But what you get is a lot more road noise. You get that being transmitted through, but you know, it's these subtle things that actually offer these off-road type SUVs character over its generic rivals, right? Like your Mazda CX-5s, your RAV4s, your CR-Vs. Those SUVs don't necessarily do anything wrong, but gosh, they are so lifeless to drive. You feel like nothing when you're behind the wheel. This is cool. This is fun. This livens up your daily commute a little bit. It's not going to light your world on fire, but I'm just saying it's a nice touch. I do appreciate the character of this. Finally, I'll just mention one thing. The fuel economy with the 3-cylinder, it's about 25 in the city and 28, I believe, out on the highway, but you can easily beat those EPA estimates. Especially on the highway, you should be getting a little over 30 mpg, and you can use regular fuel with this turbo 3-cylinder. And with that established, let's go ahead and let's transition into this interior segment now. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about this interior space, because it does look pretty plain in here. A lot of hard touch plastics towards the bottom. However, everything is solid, well built, and functional. It's a very ergonomic interior space. The doors, when you open and close them, that feels good. There is no creaking or rattling of any of the plastics or any of the panels. This big bend with its leather plus cloth inserts for the seats, not only do they look good, but they're extremely comfortable as well. You can do a lot of miles in these seats, and you do have some good lumbar support as well, especially for the driver. I believe you do have to get the convenience package to get the wireless charging pad, but once you do, you have it here. So that's one area where you can put your phone. There's another slot where you can put a phone as well, or a wallet. And all of these Bronco Sports are going to come with a 8-inch infotainment screen with Ford Sync 3. This is a easy to use infotainment system. It's not the prettiest in the world, but it is, once again, functional. It gets the job done. You do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. However, you do have to plug in your phone to utilize those two features. Now, the only reason why you might want to consider stepping up to the Outer Banks trim level, it's around 35 grand, maybe 36, 37 with some additional options. The only reason why you might want to get the Outer Banks is to option in the Bang & Olufsen audio system, because what we have here, this base audio unit, it's obviously not the best, especially if you are an audiophile. But don't get me wrong, it certainly gets the job done. It gets the point across. It's very similar to my 2024 4Runner audio system. So I certainly don't hate it. I would not step up to the Outer Banks. I would stick with the Big Bend for sure. This is certainly the value of the lineup, but if you go with the Outer Banks, you can potentially get the Bang & Olufsen. You can get a heated steering wheel, and you will also get a 6-inch digital gauge cluster as opposed to the 4.2-inch digital gauge cluster that we have here with the Big Bend. The smaller gauge cluster screen is doing the job. It's easy to use. It's not a problem, but I just thought I would mention that. Another thing you can get with the Outer Banks is one-touch automatic windows for all 4 windows. Here we do not have one-touch automatic windows for any of the windows. So that is one subtle con with the Big Bend. I do like the dial shifter, very easy to use. And I forgot to talk about this during the driving segment, but we do have our goat modes here, right? You got your goats, you got your sheeps, we have our wheats and our tares. So anyway, I didn't really talk about the goat modes because this vehicle is reacting perfectly just in its normal mode. You don't need eco, you don't need sport, but you do also have a slippery condition mode and a sand mode as well if you're out on the beach. That is useful, I suppose. And it's also cool that you get the all-wheel drive as standard with these SUVs. The center armrest and the glove box provide ample amounts of space, and me being 5'11", I can easily get in and out of this vehicle, and I have plenty of headroom here because of this boxy design. And the rear legroom is kind of a pro and a con. Personally, I have plenty of space to sit behind myself. However, I sit closer to the steering wheel than most people my size. You know how a lot of people are, they like to lean the seat way back and drive with their feet and do all this nonsense. Yeah, I'm not one of those people. I sit up straight, right, as I'm supposed to. So because of that, the people sitting behind me have ample amounts of space. And Ford is smart. They mounted these front seats up a little bit higher, so the rear occupants, they can slide their feet underneath the front seats here, and that gives you some extra legroom in the back. And the back of these front seats are soft, so you can kind of dig your knees into the back if you need to as well. But yeah, I personally don't have an issue sitting back there, but if you're really tall, like well over 6 feet, then you might find the rear seats to be a little bit constricted. But for the size, right, like the physical size of this SUV, it's a little over 170 inches long total. I think they've done a brilliant job packaging this product to be as practical as it can be, because it's easy to drive, easy to place out on the road. Your blind spots, that's not really an issue. You can easily fit this in a garage space, and with all of this, you still get decent legroom. So I'm personally not complaining. You do have some vents back there. The trunk is a good size, but it's not an electronic trunk. You have to physically open it, and you do have a spare tire back there as well. We have brilliant Continental Pro Contact tires here, and your spare tire is also that same Continental Pro Contact. And another cool feature is you can physically lift open just the glass portion of the back trunk. So it's not like the 4Runner where it electronically slides down. You have to actually lift up the glass flap. So it's cool. It's a nice added touch of practicality. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's conclude this video. Okay, so as you can see, I'm a big fan of the Bronco Sport in the right trim, like what we have here, a Big Bend, where you're not overpaying for it. You're paying around 33 grand, and you have yourself a cool family vehicle that's not completely soulless or dreary to drive. No, you have something that has decent features. Like I forgot to mention, you do have heated front seats here. That's great to see. You have a simple infotainment screen, all the tech is good, and you even get the useful safety features as standard, like blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and these Ford Bronco Sports, they were a IIHS top safety pick back in 2022. I don't think they've reevaluated these SUVs in 2024 yet, but the point is, these are plenty safe, so you can confidently put a family in here. So you add in safety, decent features, comfortable interior, good driving dynamics, effortless engine power, and you get the all-wheel drive as standard. So families, business owners, everyone can make use of this vehicle and not have to step up to the big Bronco necessarily, unless you're really going to off-road. And really, that's why I'm not a big fan of the off-road version of the Bronco Sport. That Badlands, it's not worth paying 40 grand for. Just stick with this and you'll be really happy. Now, some of the cons that I mentioned before, it's, as I stated, for whatever reason, in 2024, this feels a lot stiffer. And these car manufacturers, they will make changes, tweaks, and updates to these vehicles and not disclose it to the public. But I would say ride quality, that could be a bit of a con. And I suppose it is a little bit louder, especially out on the highway due to the road noise that comes through. It's okay around town. It's mainly out on the highway. That's when you notice more of that road noise coming through. Overall, though, not a big deal. And I personally don't mind the ride because the handling is so much more sure-footed now and much more secure. It just offers the driver a lot of confidence behind the wheel. And it's not like a back-shattering ride by any means. These comfortable seats really help things out. So yeah, if you're interested in one of these vehicles, I would say go for it. And when I did a nationwide search for Bronco Sports in the United States, there's over 24,000 of these things sitting on dealership lots. So you can absolutely negotiate a discount. I've seen some dealers advertise over $5,000 off of MSRP. However, I'm pretty sure those are just incentives and not dealer discounts. Like, I'm assuming that's like military, conquest, recent graduate, all of those things. I think it's just incentives coming from the manufacturer, not necessarily a dealer discount. I think a more reasonable and plausible dealer discount would be around 2 to 3 grand off of MSRP. I would try to go for that. And in the description box below, I have a free leasing calculator provided to you by AutoCompanion. It shows you the residual values, the interest rate of a lease, and the incentives that you can qualify for. So whether you're leasing, paying cash, or financing, use that free leasing calculator to see the incentives you can qualify for, because these Ford, Chevys, CDJR, they all have a bunch of incentives, and if you don't know about them, you're leaving money on the table. So you want to make sure you know exactly what you qualify for. So check out that free resource down below. Leasing programs, interest rates, all of that changes every month, and fortunately AutoCompanion's calculator will also update every month. But yeah, this is a cool little SUV to maybe finance and pay it off as quickly as possible, or to pay cash for, especially with any discounts that you can qualify for. And keep in mind, incentives, they stack on top of the dealer discount. So if you negotiate 2 grand off of the MSRP from the dealership and you qualify for loyalty or conquest and you get an extra $1,000 off there, that $1,000 stacks on top of the $2,000 that you negotiated with the dealership. And that's why if you play the game right, buying a new vehicle could sometimes even be better off than purchasing a used one, because you get all of these incentives that a used car simply does not come with. So take advantage of those free resources, and let me know in the comment section if you purchased one of these SUVs. What kind of discount were you able to get? Are you enjoying the vehicle? Have you noticed if the ride quality has changed over the years, if you've been able to test drive these things over time? I would like to hear your thoughts. And if you are planning on being a long-term owner, consider buying an extended warranty for these things if you're worried about the drivetrains. But I'm going to leave it at that. If you found value with this content, make sure to like and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Take care and goodbye.